Welcome back, once again adventurers, to Let's Play Steins 0. In the last episode, Daru discovered an incredibly ominous message on the occult board of that channel, following a nationwide cell phone blackout, in which no signals can be sent or received. Apparently, it was sent to Rintaro's ad-channel pseudonym of Salieri's neighbor, and reading through the lines was a warning from Amadeus Kurisu to Rintaro. And of course, it means that a certain secret group, which we all know as Stratfor, or Strategic Focus, are putting their plans into motion. And the Amadeus system has been removed from its vault in Victochondria and Wako City. There is only one person we know who could do such a thing: Alexis Leskinen. And guess who he works for? Stratfor. Sadly, Mayuri is at the radio building too. Thank you for the assist, Daru, but we need your special skills here at the lab. She might, and ultimately she might not. It's maybe different from the events of the Alpha World line, but we're still in danger. I gave my orders and ran out of the lab towards the radio building to save Mayuri at all costs. And now we're back with Suzuha and the message that she received not too long ago. Suzuha hit the play button on her smartphone's video display. The video was heavily compressed and covered in static, but she recognized the person that appeared. It was a face she'd known her whole life, a face that had been with her in both her past and her present. The man, who she still remembered holding her up in the air as a child, was probably about 35 in the video, although it's hard to tell.
Yeah, Suzuha, 元気かい? 父さんだよ。こちらは2025年だ。
Apparently, it's a message from none other than Daru in the future, but it's from the year 2025. But it seems like Daru has managed to find a way to send messages back into the past. Now the crackling makes it a little hard to hear, but this message, if you couldn't already figure it out, is extremely important, so we should listen to it. Another path to Steins Gate? Is that even possible? I don't know what's going on here, but we'll take it as read. Although I believe you might have had your reasons. Wait, so does that mean... although we'd probably be able to tell a little bit more readily if we had the divergence meter.
つまり僕も君が出発した世界線とは違う別の世界線上のハシダイタルということになる。
So apparently Daru has not only found a way to send a video message back in time to the past, but also he's managed to send one that actually crosses into a different world line entirely.
でも鈴木、どうか勘違いしないでほしいんだ。僕はどんな世界線においても娘ラブだからね。
Of course, at this point, it would stand to reason that Daru would have no idea which Suzuha is currently reading his message right now.
ちなみにどうだい？比べてみて、どっちのパパの方がダンディーかな？
But even so, no matter what world line he's in, Daru is still a perverted gentleman.
僕は最近筋トレを始めたんだけどさ。
誰？くだらないこと言ってないで。さっさと作戦内容を話せ。
And that is none other than Rintaro from the year 2025.
まったくだわ。どうせまた三日坊主で終わるんだから、どうでもいい報告はしないで。
And Mahu as well, of all people.
僕ができる時間は終わったんよ。
And Fairus too.
まあまあ、そうせかすなって。
So in the year 2025, the gang's all there.
ということで、このムービーメールの本来の目的に移ろう。
And now to the meat and grit of
オペレーション
this.
アークライトの詳細を伝える。
Operation Aquila.
これは本当に一瞬のミスも許されないギリギリの戦いになる。心して聞くんだ。いいね。
Okie dokie, as you so often fondly say. Suzuha paused the video there. If he was telling her to pay attention, it must be important. If she was going to memorize it all, she needed to calm down. And I wonder what Mayuri is thinking of all this. To be honest, getting a video from her dad in 2025 had made her really excited. It felt like her father was telling her that the plan she'd come up with on her own was the right one. That's why she needed to pay careful attention. Looks like another possibility has been opened to us. Mayuri was standing by herself, typing something into her phone as fast as she could. When the video had arrived, she told Mayuri they may have to leave for the past today. There must have been some reason that the video was sent today, at this time. That's how it seemed to Suzuha. Indeed, it does feel like all of this was preordained from the very start, but that is a subjective perspective, in all honesty.
何してるの？あ、すずさん。どう？今日出発することになりそう？
You didn't answer a question there, by the way.
作戦概要はこれから確認するつもり。
But I think I can guess.
そっか。あのね、もし今日出発するってなったら、マユシーは行方不明になっちゃうわけでしょ？
I'm not gonna lie to you, Mayuri. I think that's exactly what would happen.
心配かけたくないから、お父さんとお母さんと、あとお友達みんなにメールを書いておこうと思って。
So she's sending a farewell to her family, her relatives, and her companions. But what will Rintaro think of all
おかりんお
this?
じさんくらいには直接伝えられる時間があればいいけどね。
Unfortunately, that time is the one thing that you are quickly running out of, even if you are unaware of the predicament that the two of you are in at the moment. She would be done going over the mission and decide on a course of action by sunset, probably.
オカリンにもメール書いたから大丈夫。
She may have written a message, but has she sent
メー
it
ルで
yet?
いいの？
Mayuri smiled and nodded. There were no more tears in her eyes, but you could still see wet lines drawn down her soft pink cheeks.
なんだか恥ずかしいから。
This is the first time we've ever actually seen Mayuri Shino open up like this. Ever.
でもね、せっかく書いたメールだけど送れないかもしれないなーって今ちょっと困ってたところなのです。
So she hasn't sent the message yet, but I will say something here. Mayuri, you've definitely come a long way since this whole thing began.
なんで？
電波圏外になってるんだ。場所が悪いのかな。
So it seems that Mayuri has realized that they don't have a cell phone signal. And I hope your intuition is as quick as on the draw as Rintaro's was, Suzuha, because you're not going to have a lot of time to watch that video, or go back in time. Suzuha looked at the screen on Mayuri's phone. There wasn't a single bar on the antenna, even though you were on the roof.
おかしい。この場所ならいつだって電波は入ってた。
But not today, and you should realize what that means. Suzuha took out her own phone to double check.
私のもだ。
When she saw that Mayuri was using a different cell carrier than her, she frowned.
嫌な予感がする。
Yeah. She told Mayuri to hide behind the time machine and silently moved up against the iron door leading to the stairs. She opened it a crack, taking care not to let it creak. Yeah. This is bad. Very, very bad. She looked inside the building. It was as quiet as ever. Maybe a little too quiet for my liking. There was nothing on the floor below but a room for events and some storerooms, so on the weekdays like this, it was always quiet.
気のせいか。
No, you're not having a hallucination. This is real. She tilted her head sideways as she softly tried to close the door. At Mayuri's scream, she turned around, just in time to see armed agents in camouflage jumping over the fence. I was gonna say, how the hell did they sneak around us, but then I realized we're on a building. And, yeah, these guys look like professional soldiers. In fact, come to think of it, didn't Rintaro, Daru, and Mayuri and Maho run into you guys earlier? One of them had grabbed Mayuri.
外壁をよじ登ってきたのか。
Yeah, these guys are professional soldiers. Which probably means they're the Russian militia. Suzuha deeply regretted her mistake. She was well aware that someone could try to come up the walls. Yeah. Doesn't matter how high this building is, there's always someone that can scale such an immense obstacle. But the video from her dad made her so excited she'd lowered her guard. In which case, hiding the time machine here on the roof of the radio building probably wasn't the best decision, although there was actually nothing you could do about that. There were about 30 men in total, all carrying small assault rifles. With Mayuri as their hostage, Suzuha couldn't do anything.
銃を置いてそのまま地面に伏せろ。手は頭の上だ。
Although we can refuse. One of the men gave her an order in a cold voice.
抵抗すればこの女の命は保証できない。
He wouldn't guarantee it even if we complied. He pulled Mayuri close and put the gun to her head, then flipped off to safety.
くっそー。
Seems like Rintaro's worst fears are sadly being realized right before our eyes. For if Mayuri dies here and now on the Beta World line, that will essentially render everything that Rintaro has done up until this point absolutely meaningless. And I do mean everything that he has done. She had no choice but to obey. Suzuha took the gun out of her holster and put it on the ground, then took a pose where she couldn't resist.
喋らないで。こいつらいざとなれば本気で姉さんを殺すよ。
That they will. These people show absolutely no mercy whatsoever.
私は大丈夫だから。
From the way they moved, she could easily tell they were veteran professionals. That meant that they were certainly after the time machine, and probably aware that only Suzuha could operate it. That, Suzuha decided, meant they wouldn't kill her if they didn't have to. The man who'd spoken to her first was probably the leader, knelt down next to her. She was searched roughly to make sure she wasn't carrying any other weapons.
これでも一応女なんだ。少しは気を使えよ。
They took the other small pistol she carried for emergencies, as well as several different kind of knives.
目標2と目標3確保。
So they were after Mayuri and Suzuha.
そっちは
The leader spoke to the group of men gathering around the time machine.
目標1確保。ロックがかかっていて全てエラーで弾かれます。
And of course they were after the time machine. Several of the men had gone inside the machine as well. Leaving the hatch open had been Suzuha's own mistake, but still, it upset her to see them inside the time machine.
何をしても無駄だ。そいつは私じゃないということを聞かない。
Of course, we have no choice but to play that bargaining chip.
立て。
And at least it isn't a bluff on our part. That's the truth. The leader kicked her with the heel of his boot.
手はそのままゆっくりとだ。少しでも余計な動きをしたら即座に人質を殺す。
But we were in exactly the same position as Rintaro was on the Alpha World line. When she stood up, her hands were handcuffed behind her back. They prodded her from behind to move next to the machine.
生体認証だ。
Yep, they definitely know about biometrics.
そうだ。ただし、私の静脈や指紋をコピーしても無駄だ。手を切り落としたり、目玉をくり抜いたって認証には使えない。
In other words, the time machine will only work as long as Suzuha is alive. So killing her is actually completely out of the question.
2036年のシステムはそんなに間抜けじゃない。
The men in camo seemed aware of everything she had said. So they do know about 2036. None of them seemed surprised or irritated.
教授はどうした？
the professor. The leader asked the man who was pointing the gun at Mayuri.
現在こちらに向かっているところです。
Yeah. I will curse your name from this day forward, Leskinen.
目標1は目標2とセットだ。洗脳しないと無理だと伝えろ。
Yeah, we're being held hostage by Stratfor. And, of course, Leskinen's old tricks won't, Leskinen is going to end up using his, bag of tricks to try and get Suzuha's cooperation, it seems. Suzuha grit her teeth when she heard the word brainwashing. Slightly different from the brainwashing that CERN uses in the Alpha World line. You don't get microchipped. She had seen many of her friends in Valkyrie undergo this cruel procedure, and they'd be sent back as spies before turning into vegetables. The leader turned towards Suzuha.
洗脳の行き着く先は分かっているはずだ。教授は薬などは使わない。直接脳をいじられることになる。
And I believe he does so with the help of a very convenient artificial intelligence, I might
そうな
add.
る前に素直に我々に協力した方が利口だと思うな。
In other words, flashing back to the events of the attack in the underground parking lot, and comparing that with the warning message from Amadeus Kurusu, it seems like Leskinen did indeed use the Amadeus system as well as his own brainwashing techniques to manipulate that associate professor who heckled Rintaro in the past at the seminar. Remember all that babble about God and Silicon and everything? Yeah, it should all be starting to fall into place by now if you haven't figured it out at this point. Where she'd come from, an old doctor with that name had led a brainwashing team that had attempted to destroy Valkyrie. Suzuha hated him more than anyone else. Old doctor, you say? Well, we've seen an old doctor before, in the year 2032, shortly after Mayuri had adopted Kaguri. And it said that she had to be kept for an additional 6 months instead of the 2 weeks that Mayuri was originally promised. They hadn't used drugs either. It was safe to assume that both professors were the same person. Yeah, my intuition was right on the money on that one.
わかった。
In other words, that old doctor from Kaguri's flashback in the previous episodes is Alexis Leskinen from the future. She nodded.
言うことを聞く。だが、これじゃ無理だ。
Yeah, you can't use her hands if she's handcuffed. Suzuha jangled the cuffs behind her back.
手錠は外す。ただし抵抗すればそっちの女が死ぬ。
Of course, Mayuri's life is still in danger. There was still a gun pointed at Mayuri's head after all. Even if Suzuha had tried to resist, it would be impossible to save Mayuri from this many professional soldiers. When she went inside the cockpit, she used her biometrics to bypass the lock and brought up the control console. Lights came on across the machine, and she could hear a low rumbling.
よし降りろ。あとは我々が調査する。
あんたたちに理解できるとは思えないけどね。
Well, you can't really do anything about this. As Suzuha left the cockpit, the leader turned his gaze towards a particular cluster of the men which seemed to be engineers. That was the moment she was waiting for. Her hand had wandered to below the console for just a moment where she left the cockpit. She'd hidden some knives there. Looks like this is a window of opportunity. Just be careful, Suzuha, because it can go wrong in a heartbeat. Without making a sound, she threw it at the leader. The knife pierced his throat. He went down so quickly he didn't even have time to scream. Well, first blood to Suzuha Amane. However, there are 29 other soldiers we have to deal with. She quickly readied another knife and darted between the men in camo. Her target was the man pointing a gun at Mayuri's head. Need to get Mayuri away from here as quickly as possible. To say nothing of the time machine. She dropped her hips low to the ground. In an instant she moved behind him and slit his throat. Blood poured out onto an astonished Mayuri, but there was no time to worry about her. Yep. She grabbed his rifle and fired a few shots to force him to the ground, then grabbed Mayuri's hand and ran behind the machine. Well, now we've kicked up a hornet's nest. The plan has gone well so far, but she had seriously underestimated how well these men were, not to mention the fact that they were all fully dressed in body armor, although that doesn't seem to help the men who have fallen so far. The second in command quickly moved to the front and worked to re-establish control. All she had was a knife and the gun she had stolen, and she needed to protect Mayuri, a non-combatant. And the time machine as well. She was still facing more than 25 active enemies. Whatever the right way was to get out of this mess, she couldn't find it. The time machine was still active. She couldn't escape because she couldn't leave it here. And now they're pressing the counterattack. One of the men fired several rounds towards her, which bounced off the side of the machine. But that's... oh dear. And it seems like Mayuri has been struck by a bullet. Her head flew back as if she had been struck. A spurt of blood came out. Oh no. Her cute face was turning blood red. One of the rounds had grazed her after it had ricocheted. She was clutching herself with her arms and her expression was completely blank. Maybe hiding behind the machine, probably... not that there's much space to sort of hide behind it from the rear. Her tiny body was shaking. Suzuha couldn't blame her. She fired back at the enemy, but they kept drawing closer. And yet the situation could be incredibly worse. The time machine's maintenance hatch was right in front of her. When she saw it was there, she visualized her last option in her mind. Self-destructing the time machine is a viable option, except that would actually severely damage your plans. If she did that, all of her plans would be ruined. The path to Steins gate would be forever closed. But that didn't mean she was cold-blooded enough to sacrifice Mayuri here. If the world lines were going to converge, then maybe Mayuri wouldn't die here at all. But what her father had said during his video message had bothered her. Except the thing is, we haven't exactly made that choice yet, whatever it could be. Which meant that Suzuha had no proof that Mayuri would be alive in 2036 now. Had the world line really changed? Of course, for the sake of Operation Aquila, she'd hoped it had. But that meant she wouldn't be able to move from this place.
最悪の事態を想定しろ。
Yeah, that's actually probably for the best in this situation. So, when we return, adventurers, we shall see that whether or not Suzuha will be able to get herself out of this particular pickle that she's currently in, and try and get some first aid to Mayuri as quickly as possible. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.